Good. Okay, so we're being recorded as always. And I think we're going to start. So before we start, I'd like to start with a Q&A. Any questions on anything, we talked about today? Tonight's our last session. Very exciting. 8. We made it through 8 sessions. There was no blood, no broken bones that I know of. Big success for me when that happens. Any questions on anything we talked about last couple of weeks? Clear as a
Not
bell.
so far. Yeah,
Okay.
defend your book.
Okay. So I wanted to clarify some things that we talked about either, I guess, 2 weeks ago. This concept of when people die, when Buddhists die, or not just all Buddhists, but only some Buddhists, primarily Tibetan Buddhists or Vajrayana Buddhists die. Um, there's a bardo that lasts up to, we talked about that quite a bit, 49 days. Doesn't have to be 49 days. A person can be in the afterlife for 3 days and then be reborn or go to the Pure Land, which we didn't talk to. Um, but the Theravadan tradition of Buddhism, rebirth happens immediately at death. There is no intermediate state lasting days or weeks. So it's interesting to know what other people think. And how do you prove any of this stuff? There's no real, from a scientific perspective, there's no real way to prove the number of days in the bardo. So what we do is we rely on great beings, great masters, things like that, for that kind of information. Uh, and then immediately after death, in the Tibetan Buddhist practice, a monk or a lama will sit there for usually several hours, sometimes a day, usually up to 3 days. The question came up last time. I think Anne asked the question, well, how long do they sit there for? It's typically unless it's some great being, in which case they'll sit there and say prayers for many weeks, they'll sit with the body for up to 3 days. Because that's typically how long it takes. The consciousness hangs around, and that's how long it takes for your typical person to leave the body and to truly go into the afterlife. There is something called, let me see if I can pull it up, called Tukdam, Tukdam, Tukdam. And while it takes about a minute, as you know, for my computer to show a picture of someone in Tukdam. Is anyone familiar with that, with Tukdam? Have you ever heard that word before?
No.
So Tukdam is when a highly advanced Buddhist practitioner keeps meditating after clinical death. So the breathing has stopped, the heartbeat has stopped, but the practitioner is said to remain in a very deep meditative state for hours or even days. So the mind has not yet fully left the body, and the practitioner remains in, they call profound meditation. The body for that period of time could be weeks, shows no signs of decay. Their area around the heart may stay warm,
Hmm.
and the face can appear peaceful or lifelike. You can read about it. Tukdam, one word. And the monks, they will not disturb the body until signs appear that the meditation has ended. So hopefully in a few seconds, I have a picture here of an advanced monk who passed many years ago, but he went into Tukdam. Um, and it can be very inspiring, to say the least, because here's a guy that's dead, but as they say in Princess Bride, anyone, I don't know if you guys know that reference or not, little dead is not all dead. So, anyone know the Princess Bride, or is it just me? You don't know, Chris? You haven't seen the Princess Bride?
No, and I have two kids, so
Okay,
two girls, so
yeah,
no.
it's with what I've got the guy's name, the actor's name, Billy Crystal. Rose, you know what I'm talking about, the Princess Bride? Yeah, yeah, little dead, not all dead. So, okay, once again, we'll wait for this picture to come up. Okay, while the picture's coming up, I have a question that I wanted to ask about karma and see what your answer is. Okay, so here's the question. So I'm changing topics until this picture shows itself. Okay, your children and your wife or your husband, whatever, doesn't really matter, buy you a scarf for your birthday. They are super proud of the scarf that they picked out for you. You hate it and will never wear it. The scarf is expensive and can be returned. Ah, here we go. Okay, so this is Tukdam. Can you see the picture there? That's I have other images, but it takes too long to come up. So the gentleman passed away, no brain activity, no breathing, but still meditating, and the heart is warm.
And how deep is this gentleman into,
Well, now he's dead because this is from years ago, but it
Mhm.
could be weeks.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So the consciousness is still there.
Mm.
Very subtle consciousness. Okay. All right. So back to the scarf. So you got it. Your children, your husband, your wife, they buy you a scarf. They're very proud of it. You hate it. You're never going to wear it. The scarf's expensive and can be returned. And you can use the extra money that the refund is going to provide. What do you do or tell your family, if anything? And this question is about karma. Just kind of give you a hint. So anyone want to venture a guess here? No one has an opinion. I know everyone's got opinions. You're a Buddhist. You have
Um,
an opinion. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
yeah, I had a similar situation recently with my wife, but it was not a scarf. It was a yoga mat, and I bought her a really nice yoga mat for Christmas, and she used it once, and she doesn't like it. So, and she told me so, and I appreciate that. So I would be honest because then she ended up picking out a yoga mat that was way less expensive, so it worked out. Being honest, so
Okay, so you would be direct. Okay,
yes.
good. Anyone else? You want to vote for that, or do we need to vote Chris off the island? I think a lot has to do with how it's presented, but also not only how it's presented, but some people, there's no right answer here, but some people don't accept criticism, even if it's presented in the most beautiful way, and people just get offended. So I bring up questions like that because a lot has to do with motivation and implementation. And so we want to be more sensitive to that when we solve these small problems. I have another one here. While parking in an underground shopping mall, you slightly scrape another car parked next to you. The car you scraped is old and already has several scratches, though none exact, but no scratches exactly where you scraped it. What would you do? While parking in an underground shopping mall, you slightly scrape another car parked next to you. The car you scraped is old and already has a lot of scratches, though none exactly where you scraped it. What would you do?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Well,
Thinking about it.
it happened to me.
Okay.
So I bumped this car next to me, and I had a camera with on my phone. So I took a picture of where I bumped him. I've told him, here's my number. I apologize for bumping, but I want to make sure that, this is the part that I did bump. So if anything, if you want me to, I know someone who can fix whatever it is. I'll pay for the part that I bumped, but I'm not responsible for anything else.
Mhm. And did that person respond?
No.
No. Got
I
a lot
mean,
on? Yeah.
it's just the principle of the matter. I mean, like, whether I did it, so I'm going to own up to it, but I'm not going to just like run away. So,
Mhm. Right. And of course, there's always the chance, which I'm sure we all think about, that, I'm going to do the right thing here, do the right thing, do the right thing. But what if they come back and they go, oh, you know what? That was a $4,000 one of those things. And it's like, okay, now so much for doing the right thing. So, anyways, we go through life now. Hopefully, we monitor our thoughts, our speech, our actions, checking our motivation behind them. And we have the ability to change our motivation or change our thoughts, speech, and action so that we are less self-centered, less selfish, and more open-minded. And we do that through meditation, etc. Okay, so brief recap. Who do Buddhists pray to? That's what we talked about last 2 weeks ago. Who do Buddhists pray to? We have lots of prayers, just like every other religion. We're busy trying to get have things go a better way than they're going now, whether it's for healing or health or wealth or protection or anxiety. We're not happy with how things may be going and we want to change them, so we pray. And it can be even a very simple thing like, oh, I just wish I had just a simple wish that, oh, I wish I had more money this month than just to pay for rent. Or just something, it could be doesn't have to be a very formal prayer, but we're always wishing or expressing desires in our mind for how things should be different. And we can do that in a very formal way or informal way in Buddhism by using enlightened beings as our role model or meditational deities, which are deities are like a portal that allow us to recognize the subtle basis of the mind. So if we're focused on the Buddha Shakyamuni who actually lived thousands of years ago, or Guru Rinpoche, who was another great, known as the second Buddha, lived in the 8th century. We can focus on these people and try to become like them, immerse ourselves in those wonderful characteristics that enlightened beings have, ultimate compassion, wisdom, understandings of impermanence, no attachments, things like that. So we can use visualization or say mantras to immerse ourselves so we can be more like them. Or we can use meditational deities, which is not based upon any real people, um, but they are a template for characteristics, once again, that we would like to incorporate in ourselves, in our mind. And then the topic was, how do prayers help us or someone else? I said, gee, there's 3 categories here. One is I could pray for myself. Okay. Well, from a scientific perspective, if I'm meditating and prayer makes me calmer and less stressed and things like that, then we'd all agree we're more likely to heal. Okay. Not a lot of magic going on there. The second one is, yeah, I'm going to pray for someone else who's sitting right next to me, or my cousin, or someone that I interact with. And now when they interact with me, they might sense that I'm calmer or compassionate or I care about them. And that might help them in a very positive way in healing. And then the third category is I want to help or heal or say a prayer for someone that they don't know who I am. It's all the way on the other side of the world. How does that work? From a Buddhist perspective, because I'm not going to talk to them and they don't even know I'm praying for them, which happens all the time. And there's a shooting that happens, and some of us might chant some mantras for a school shooting or some situation on the other side of the globe. And from a Buddhist perspective, beings are deeply relational. We're interconnected. Each moment of experience depends on countless causes and conditions which we share with each other. So, from a Buddhist perspective, the moment you begin praying with genuine, non-dualistic compassion, I'll define that in a moment, that intention together with dedication of merit, I'll define that again, creates causes that can be conditions for healing someone. Okay, a lot of words there. So the analogy we use in Buddhism is a tree. I plant a seed in the ground, and now I'm going to water it. There's some fertilizer there, the sun, there's rain, there's some wind, and then if all those variables come together, all those conditions come together, the seed is the cause, and all these other things are conditions, then we can grow an apple tree. And there's apples. Okay, great. Same thing here. Karma and prayer works the same way. There's lots of reasons that Susie is sick, And there's lots of reasons that have to come together, lots of conditions that have to come together to help her heal. She's got to have the right doctors, enough money, the right hospital, the right medicine, et cetera, et cetera. And if we pray in a non-dualistic fashion with strong intention, then that too will be a condition for her healing. Non-dualistic compassion means instead of me saying, I hope Susie gets better, I pray that Susie gets better, nothing wrong with that. That'll have some effect. Non-dualistic compassion means we not only can say that, but we can say, and everyone else that's suffering like Susie, or all sentient beings without exception. Once we say that, that sense of, and mean it, of course, that's where the strong intention comes in. What that does is that opens up this selflessness, this open-mindedness. When we talked about karma, good karma is generated when we're selfless, we're open-minded. Negative karma is generated when we're very, very selfish. It's a very constricting feeling, me, my, I. So when we express a prayer non-dualistically, that allows that condition to be part of the conditions that will help Susie heal, even someone far away who does not know you. So, for example, you can visualize a deity, a medicine Buddha, generate sincere compassion, recite mantras, prayers, and then we dedicate the merit to that specific person and all sentient beings. We're basically intending or having an intention that whatever merit we get, we're so generous and so open-minded that kind of opens the gate to become a supportive condition for the person to heal. Now, when I say it opens the gate, we're not sending that person energy. We're not giving them anything. All we're doing is allowing ourselves to recognize what is already there, which is this relational connection that we have with other sentient beings. So there's a lot going on there. Thoughts, comments, or questions on that? Believe it? Don't believe it? What do you think? How does that compare to Christian prayer and Jewish prayer or any other religion where you're praying to God for Susie to heal? And from my perspective, my concern is I have one concern. I just want to know about the efficacy. I just want to know, is my prayer going to be effective? And whatever's the most effective, that's all I care about. Any opinion on that? I'll give you my opinion. My opinion is that intention is the number one issue. It's the number one thing. So it doesn't really matter. You're some sense Christian, Jewish, you pray to God. If your intention is strong, it is going to have become one of those conditions for supportive healing. All this other stuff that we try to do, oh, let's be more open-minded, let's express dedication for merit for all sentient beings. I think that's great, and I think we should do that because I want to improve the efficacy, the effectiveness. But if I had to, and this is all my opinion now, we're getting away from what the Buddhist literature shows, that 80, 90% of the efficacy comes from our intention. So, anyways, something to think about. Yeah, go ahead, Rose.
Quick question though. So hypothetically, I mean, like, so we're praying for my uncle, my friend. So you're praying for all these people who have cancer. It works well for the one person and it doesn't work well for the other three people. So is it because it's got to do with the recipient, or if it's got like the intention is the same for all four people,
Mm.
but only one person is healing. So it's got to do with the person who's receiving, not only the person who's giving, right?
Absolutely. So karma is very complex, and there's lots of reasons that someone's going to heal. Um, First of all, everyone's karma is different. My cancer is not the same as Joe's cancer or Harry's cancer. I have a different doctor, different medicine, different all these other factors that can go into someone to heal from cancer. And now we're adding one more condition, which is, oh, someone's praying for me, and that has an impact too. So there's lots of different things going on there. And your intention, the strength of your intention, the purity of your intention is kind of directing that, karma is all about intention. So it's directing that causal trajectory, that direction, that condition of that karmic intention into through this, we'll call it a causal field. Causal field is everything, all this subtle consciousness that goes on between sentient beings. It's not like giving them money, it's like redirecting the flow of your intention. And that's what we do when we do dedication of merit. So we might sit there and meditate 15, 20, 30 minutes and then, or do any kind deed that generates positive karma and say, I dedicate the merit from this meditation, from this action, from this whatever I did, from this donation to Susie. May she heal from cancer quickly, and to all sentient beings. So we're basically directing it very specifically to her. And that becomes one of many conditions that will determine how fast she heals, how she heals, things like that. At the end of the, now, there's other parts to it as well, which is um, what we don't guarantee is that she will heal as a result of our prayers, when she will heal, how she will heal, and whether she heals or not. Another important question is what happens to her? How does she or he or she handle that? So there are plenty of people, for example, who have cancer and they survive, maybe they survive cancer, maybe they don't, but it changes their entire state of mind. And they look at themselves and the world very, very differently now. Or there's a silver lining, which is, I had a very difficult year. I healed from cancer. It was horrible, horrible, horrible experience. But now I have a very different perspective on the world, which I'm so grateful that I have. So there's other things going on so we want to get away from this linearity, which we all have, of I want to heal so and so. How do we do that through prayer? Yes, we do everything that we talked about, but we don't have this expectation that her leg is going to heal in this very specific way by Tuesday. No, it's much, much broader than that. Yes, there's a healing component for sure, but it's also, well, maybe she heals, maybe she doesn't, but we've eased her suffering. Maybe her environment's changed. Maybe she views the word differently. Maybe her environment is now more friendly. She got, in to see a better doctor. It's a billion things that can happen. We can't control outcomes. We are already part of this causal web. We're simply acknowledging and working within that causal web. I don't even remember your question, but does that answer it?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So, all right.
Marty, Lorraine has a question.
Oh, thank you, Lorraine. Go ahead, Lorraine. Thanks.
I'm wondering too, what is healing then?
Ah, yeah, exactly. Right.
Because for one person, healing could be something about what does Buddha say healing is?
So Buddha is more concerned with our states of mind than I mean, our bodies are important for sure, but he also says, hey, part of life as human beings, as sentient beings, is we're all going to die. We're all going to get old. We're all going to get sick. We're all going to die, and et cetera, et cetera. That's part of life.
So
Doesn't mean
dying could be part of healing.
it could be too. Yeah, yeah. I think ultimately the answer to that question resides within the person who's sick. And I think a lot of the times the person who's sick, they don't even know. Some people are just, folks, I just want to beat this cancer, and that's great. And we should hopefully that works. Others, maybe the older we get, or the more, we might be more focused on, well, I just want my state of mind. I don't want to lose my mind here. Or both. It's usually a combination of things. Um, but the world, as we all know, works in very, very strange, unexpected ways. It's rare that you go into a situation and everything works out exactly the way I planned it. Good luck with that. So, but that's a good question. And I think by leaving that answer to that question very, very, very open, we express our very, very strong, positive, compassionate, non-dualistic intention, and then we move on. We let the universe and that causal web and that person's karma work. It all works out, however it works out. Okay. Let's see, what else did we talk about last week? We talked briefly about taking refuge. So Buddhists typically say something like, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha so that I may attain enlightenment and help all sentient beings. There's a variety of different types of taking refuge. Each Buddhist lineage, they express it differently. Um, and basically, it is a reminder. So it's a mantra that you can also say several times a day, but it's a reminder to not rely on what we typically rely on, at least here in the West, is I feel horrible. Let me go pig out on some popcorn, 5 pounds of popcorn or something like that, or not food, sex, drugs, things like that. I think there's a time and a place for all that to enjoy those things. But we don't want to take refuge in them when times are difficult. We want to be able to, there's a very limited refuge to those things. So what we want to express is an understanding that the cavalry is not coming to save us. We are the cavalry. The cavalry and us are one and the same. So by taking refuge in the Buddha, that means we want to rely on the Buddha and everything that he stood for as a role model for us. The Dharma, the teachings, we want to rely on those teachings. And the Sangha, we want to rely on the community of Buddhists that can support us. Okay, I'm going to change topics now unless anyone's got another question on that stuff. Oh, and that's a very formal when in many Buddhist lineages, by taking refuge with the teacher, that formally makes you a Buddhist. Okay, I'm going to talk about vegetarianism now. Last 3 chapters. So I was a vegetarian for, I don't remember, 20, 30 years, something like that. And then for a year or two, I got away from it. And I remember I was at probably 10, 12 years ago, I was at a trade show with my wife. We were checking into a hotel in, of all places, Las Vegas. And we don't particularly care for Las Vegas. But I remember this vividly, checking in, and I don't even know how the conversation came about, but I think the woman that was checking us in was going to school to be a nutritionist or whatever, something like that. And so asking a couple of questions, she reminded me, which maybe you've seen, of some of these. Oh, this is what she said. God, now I remember. She said, when a lot of these animals get slaughtered, they're in such incredible fear and anxiety that it changes their chemistry, which makes sense. And when you eat that meat, that's you're taking that in. And I remember that when she said that to me, we didn't talk about Buddhism or any of that stuff. It was just a conversation. my world stopped at that moment. And that was it. I got back on the track and I don't eat meat and I rarely eat fish. So I'm not here to preach vegetarianism or veganism. No, zero. What I am here to say is that we do the best we can to respect other sentient beings. So, for example, if you like to eat meat, you're not going to give it up. Great, no problem. Well, why don't we consider eating meat instead of eating 4 times a week? Let's eat meat 3 times a week. Okay, well, you know how many sentient beings are going to say by doing that? Fish, the same thing. That's one option. Second option is before, and I think I have this in the book or one of the books, I don't remember. It's probably in this one. Before eating any food, but certainly fish or poultry or red meat, you can say a prayer. It takes about 5 to 10 seconds. And that will raise your two things. That will raise your consciousness and your sensitivity. It will express gratitude, which is always a good thing. And because that animal is probably, their consciousness is probably in the bardo, unless it's frozen meat or whatever. Stay away from that concept. It's probably in the bardo. You can influence that consciousness. You can say prayers that that consciousness of that fish, of that animal, have an auspicious rebirth. You can wish that animal well, the animal that you're eating for your nourishment. So that's my 2 cents about that. Yeah. Comments, questions? So yeah, I'm not here to preach vegetarianism or veganism. In fact, the Dalai Lama, I think, eats meat once a week. So there you go. But I know he says prayers. And I know Lama Lama also, on occasion, he'll have meat and he'll say prayers as well for that animal, for that consciousness of that animal. Okay. That was my pitch on vegetarianism. What do Buddhists have to renounce? So it's a test question. I'll give you the choices. You ready for the 4 choices? And we get to vote. We live in America. Get to vote. If we don't like the way the vote is, then we'll just vote again. What do Buddhists have to renounce? Here are the choices. You ready? Materialism, sex, power, all of the above. Let's give you the choices again. What do Buddhists renounce? Materialism, sex, power, all of the above. Oh, by the way, you have to vote.
Uh, can we put a fifth one in?
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Okay.
how about none of the above?
Well, what would you substitute it with?
I'm like, I mean,
Not so we don't renounce anything. Well, sorry. So we don't renounce anything. Is that your
you don't
answer?
pronounce anything.
You don't renounce anything. Okay. Rose said, I'm gonna add that one in there. So now we have 5 options: materialism, sex, power, all of the above, or we don't renounce anything. Those are your 5 choices.
How about we renounce our attachment, or we renounce our attachment that is getting in the way of compassion or life in a positive sense.
Right. So it's a trick question, obviously. Yes, exactly. So exactly. So what we renounce is we renounce our grasping,
Mhm.
our clinging, things like that. Nothing wrong with sex, nothing wrong with money, power, depends how you use it. Um, Having the Mercedes Maybach, nothing wrong with any of that. We focus on nothing wrong with wealth. It's our attachment, our grasping, our clinging, our desire. That's what we renounce as Buddhists. Okay. You got an A+ on that one, Ann.
Good.
Okay. The act, yeah, good.
But
I'm
is that
gonna
the
make a
final
note on
exam? Is that
that.
the final exam, Morty?
There's an essay.
Okay, good.
Okay. Last topic, the act of giving. The act of giving. So I don't even know why I put that chapter in there, but why not? Um, we live in a materialistic world, especially in the West. We've been trained to be competitive and to succeed. And you know what? Those of us that live in the West, it's not cheap to live here. Got to make money. So, and if you give away money, then maybe you don't have enough money to do what you want to do. So the practice, the act of giving is interesting because it doesn't really matter how much you give. It's not about the money. Not a, or as Lance Armstrong would say, it's not about the bike. It's not about the money. Karma is about intention. And if our goal, I don't like using that word, is to be more open-minded, more generous, um, then it's not about the money. We can give better to give $5 and zero, better to give something with the best of intentions than not. In Tibet, they have a practice, and this might be true all over the world, I don't know, where they put something in one hand, and if you're working on your grasping, clinging attachments to money, put something in one hand and you actually transfer it to the other hand, and then you transfer it back. So just that act of releasing something, putting in another hand, and then releasing something, putting another hand, that can help with our attachments. Another way to do it is just give small amounts. And then little by little, if you're worth $20 billion, yeah, but you're so attached. Well, give $5, give $10, doesn't matter. And then if you're that wealthy and you know that you should give more, then you little by little you dip your toe in the water, little by little. And as Lama Lang says, you do what you can do. Some people, they don't have a lot of money, but they feel like they should give so much, they give a lot, and then all of a sudden they can't pay their rent. He goes, no, 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 we don't do that. We want to live a balanced life. We want to, of course, take care of ourselves. So we give what you can, and better to give something small with great intention than to give something large and then all of a sudden you have a regret or, and you feel badly about it. He said that sometimes giving or donating is like taking one of the hairs from your eyebrow and pulling it out. He says it in Tibetan. That's kind of how we are. Yeah, here, enjoy it. Yeah, I'm going to give you, that kind of thing. He goes, no, we don't want that. And if you have that, maybe you're giving too much. Give it so that you don't care. And then little by little, care financially, little by little, you can raise it, raise it, raise it. Do what you can within your means, of course. Okay. Thoughts, comments, questions on that? Okay. So a few announcements. One is next week at the same time, Lama Lana will, and I'll send out an email, will be joining us. He'll probably speak for a short period of time, and then he's happy to answer any questions you have. That's announcement number one. Number two, Tibetan Buddhists typically have a daily practice or session of prayers and meditations every day in the mornings. It's called Nundro, Ndro, which literally means foundation, foundational practice. And we say prayers that really mimic almost everything we've talked about here. We say the refuge prayer. We say prayers for compassion to help others. We say we have deities. Guru Rinpoche is the primary one, or Green Tara is another one. It's in the book. Um, and we say Nundro now, I believe, once or twice a week, early in the morning. But if you don't know what the prayers are and what's going on, then it can be a little bit confusing. So we've established one of the senior teachers. She's not on the call now, but some of you may know her, Cynthia. She's going to be leading for 30 minutes a introduction to Nundro, which basically will mean she'll talk for 5 or 6 minutes about one of the prayers, maybe one of the visualizations. There'll be a 5 or 10 minute meditation she'll talk about, and then another 5 or 10 minutes of probably choosing 3 or 4 of the prayers from our Nundro practice. So it's kind of a getting into the pool, into the kiddie pool before you get into the big pool. And then that's an opportunity for you to either develop your own Nundro practice, or you'll feel better about joining the Nundro practice that we do as a group. So that's announcement number 2 is after we meet with Lama January 8th, the next 3 Thursdays, same bat chime, same bat channel. Those of you that remember Batman and Robin, she will be doing an introduction to Nundro session. And then the other opportunity that you have as well is we also have a study group Wednesdays at 5:15, which is open to anyone for about 45, 60 minutes. It's very, very laid back. We all pick a topic. We'll maybe read 3 pages from a book or watch a movie or something like that. And then use the first 5 or 10 minutes is usually a bunch of chit chat. And then we talk about that topic. And that's open to anyone. Wednesdays at 5:15. And yeah, and for any of this stuff, if you have more questions, then just email us. And if you want the link, it's not this link, it's a different link. Then, just email jigmalinkthecenter@gmail.com. And then finally, sometime in maybe April, May, I'm not quite sure when, we're going to offer not taught by me, someone else, an introduction to Vajrayana, which is the lineage that we're part of. Um, and that'll probably be a 4 to 6 week class taught by another senior member of the Sangha. So those are the announcements. January 8th, Lama. After that, 3 weeks of introduction to Nundro. And then we have a study group Wednesday nights. And then sometime in the April, May, June, we'll be having a more of an, I don't want to call it advanced class, but this has been a very introductory class, different topics in Buddhism, and that hones in more on Vajrayana. Okay. Comments, questions, thoughts, anyone? This is our last session together. If you have any, ask now, or if you want to email me or Chicken Link Center, we usually monitor that email pretty much daily. Okay. Yeah. Hi, Chris.
Yeah, well, I just want to say thank you very much for putting this together. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and looking forward to those Nanjundro teachings and everything. So that's exciting.
Great.
One question I did have, so I saw on your website, I did go on there after you mentioned it the other week. Um, you guys, do you have like a monastery, or is there a temple, like, or anything like that?
Right. So we meet on a regular basis in St. David's Church, which is an Episcopalian church in San Diego. Lovely, lovely people. And we rent space from them. So that's where we meet. At some point, the plan is to purchase a building or a house. Um, and that plan has been in the operation for a while, probably 1, 2 years away from that. But in the meantime, we're at this church and it's great space. It feels good. It's nice. It's clean, relatively easy to get to off of the 5 or maybe the 15. And yeah, so you can go to a lot of the classes. Yeah, so if you want to know all the activities we have, you can go to BuddhistSanDiego.com or type in Jigmeling Center, whatever, and then go to our calendar page. We have 2 calendars. Calendar 1 are all the things that are led by Lama Lanang Rinpoche, and calendar 2 are all the things that are led by various Sangha members.
All right.
So,
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
yeah, of course. Thank you.
Mhm.
Good. Good. Any other comments, questions? Okay. And then all of these sessions are recorded and put it on YouTube. I recorded the last 7. I didn't record the first session, but so if you want to rewatch anything, you're welcome to do that, of course. Okay, Happy New Year. Great way to start the new year. Nice meeting and seeing all of you. Thank you so much for
Thank
staying
you.
with it. And I hope to be in touch with you soon. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you,
Thank
Marty.
you.
All right.
Bye.
Take care,
Thank you,
guys.
Morty. Happy
Okay.
New Year.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.